Greetings, YouTube. I was listening to NPR the other day, and they had an episode they were discussing the concept of the many worlds theory, where it came from, and the fact there are different versions of the many worlds theory. They're not quite as many as the many worlds themselves, but there are still quite a few versions of the many worlds theory. And at one point, they were discussing the many worlds theory with someone who is an expert in theologist. And unfortunately, I missed the first couple of minutes because I hopped out of the vehicle and gotten back in. And the basic gist of what she was discussing is that if the many worlds theory is correct, and I do not necessarily say that it is or is not correct. I was a really strong proponent of the many worlds theory at one time in my life. I am less strong now simply because I've decided that since every other thing we've found out about physics has shown that the universe is an elegant structure, the many worlds theory is not. And I think that there may be some better answers out there. But until then, the many worlds theory does answer some questions. And so that's why it is a valid theory, at least until we find something better. Or theories, I should say, because there's more than one. And she's talking about it from the point of view of a theologian. Theologian? Yeah, I think that's the word. And in essence, if there are multiple world theory, if it is valid, and there are many, many Earths, and there are many, many Earths full of people, then there would be. Okay, there would be many Earths where there are no people, but there would still be Earths with people. Does that mean that each of those worlds has a Jesus? And if they don't, does that mean all those other worlds are full of people who have fallen, who have sinned in the eyes of God, and then have not been redeemed because Jesus has not been there? And if Jesus has been there, is Jesus actually moving from multi-world to multi-world? Maybe that explains why he was here for not very long. Or is he sort of a superposition? Maybe he himself exists in many different places all at once. Or does each have their own unique Jesus? And she says that poses some very interesting theological problems. And I'm thinking to myself, it does? I was just overwhelmed by what a profoundly narrow view of what Jesus is. That if you have to have a very narrow chauvinistic view that the only place Jesus is here. And then if Jesus isn't just here, somehow that makes Jesus less special. I was baffled by it. It's like, I worship a goddess and Ta. And my vision of what my goddess looks like, he's kind of a Norse Celtic vibe going on there. All right, very, very Norse Celtic. But I am under no illusion that every single person out there who has a goddess in their life that is not specified to a particular pantheon, and mine isn't. My goddess is my goddess. Doesn't have. She has never revealed a name to me. I am under no illusions that anybody else has the same vision of what my goddess looks like as I do. And I don't care. It is immaterial to me that if my goddess is presented to every single other human being on the planet, all 7 billion humans could have a vision of a goddess in their mind, and they could be completely different, and it has no effect on my personal religious belief. My mythos is untouched about how anybody else envisions the divine. So the idea that the many worlds theory somehow complicates this was really baffling to me. It's profoundly short-sighted, in my opinion. How? How does the many world theory affect you? I can't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Unless your view is so narrow that your God is your God and your God alone, and that no one else can have your God, as opposed to, say, the gods are everywhere. What's the issue? I mean, if you're a Christian, you believe in an omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent God. It does not omniscient and omnipresent mean all the multiverse? Or does it only mean this verse? And that seems like a much less powerful, interesting God to me. I love the idea that Jesus is a blob in some universe because that's the dominant form of life there. Or that I love the idea that there's an Aphrodite for Klingons. I love that idea. That would be awesome. I want to see what an Aphrodite for Klingons looks like. I bet she's pretty damn hot. Yes, I'm aware that Star Trek aliens are, in fact, based on the fact that we wouldn't just need to use human actors. I get that. But it still would be interesting. So that presents a very limited view of the divine. And I guess maybe that comes out of traditional religious views, the Abrahamic traditions, because I can't imagine that like a Hindu or someone who practices traditional religions in China or Japan would for a second even bat their eye at that concept. They'd be with me in this one, be like, what are you talking about? Your gods are that limited? There's only one? I mean, I think in some Hindu traditions, there are millions of gods, which is fine. So tell me, do you think that the many worlds theory presents a theological problem for humanity, or do you think that the very concept that it does is just sort of baffling? And if you are, in fact, an atheist and want to crap on my video, don't bother. I don't need to hear it. I've heard it 1,000 times before, and I really, really wish I was exaggerating.